It's gripping at every turn. Because one of the most popular ultra-high performance tires ever to hit the street is ready to tear it up like never before. With a whole new level of traction, stability, and braking performance, whether wet or dry. Step up to the all-new Nitto 555 G2. Check it out at nittotire.com. It's what's next.
Blog Talk Radio.
Live from Fort Bragg's backyard, this is the show that put the 110 Nation on the map. There is only one nation, the 110 Nation, and you're listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show, covering each and every sport across the board. There is no sport too large or too little. It's time to talk the talk. Here we go. Here's the man, the founder, and your host, Mr. CJ Sports.
Well, welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. You can check us out on Facebook, my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. You can check out the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Also, check us out at www.the110nation.com or check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com, for all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. Well, I tell you what, it's hump day here at the 110 Nation. Glad to have this opportunity to be here and talk sports. Midweek, I tell you what, like I've been telling you guys, it is crazy here at the 110 Nation as like I told you guys, we're in the process of moving everything. So I got a half-empty house full of stuff and things going on here. But glad to be sitting here. Got a lot of things that I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about. Potential retirements, kind of taking the NFL by storm. A new charter system that the NASCAR owners are trying to make I guess official. We'll give my thoughts on that. We got Rashad Mitchell, author, has wrote 28 books. The latest one, the top 50 underrated running backs in NFL history. Looking forward to having him on here at 9:30 to kind of pick his brain on his top 50 or some of his top 50. I'm obviously we're not going to give all of the way, so you guys can go check out his book and talk to him about some of the other stuff that he has going on. Some other books. So I'm looking forward to having him on at 9:30 tonight and just, of course, just run around the sporting world and talk some talk. So looking forward to that. I tell you what, I was rather entertained last night when I got the opportunity to watch Kentucky be upset. And not only just upset, they got rolled over by 18 points last night. So that is, I guess, what it is. But I tell you what, entertained. Oh, goodness. If you guys have not checked out the morning show, make sure you guys go over and check us out, the 110 Nation Morning Show, Mondays through Friday, 9 a.m. kickoff time. Make sure you guys check that out. Don't forget, we are on here Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. kickoff time. Coming back on the air, Jay. Check that out as well. And then, of course, Sunday night, we got the Midwest Horsepower Hour, brought to you by the YellowCautionFlag.com, produced by the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network with Damian Bean. Make sure you guys check that out. Looking forward to the guest that he's got this week. So definitely an action-packed show, and looking forward to it. I tell you what, we're getting closer and closer and closer to playoffs. As I know that I know all of us are eager to see these playoffs this weekend. And I know we're all itching. Even though Week 17 was a great week in the NFL, with 10 or 11 of the games having some kind of playoff implication still. I think that we're all ready for it to be down to the final 12, and this weekend, of course, kicks all that off. And I don't think that there's a NFL fan out there that ain't ready. You got the Redskins fans that want to know, is their Redskins for real? Did they find did they find did they find something to make them 9-7? I mean, 5-7 at one point in time. You win 4 straight games. You win your division, or was it all fluke? Seattle, they started off rough themselves, and then all of a sudden it came out hot, and Russell Wilson ended up being the top QB rated quarterback in the NFL this year. Minnesota, I mean, is there a lot behind them winning the division? Green Bay, up and down roller coaster this year. Cincinnati, can they win without Andy Dalton? Will Andy Dalton be back? Steelers, you had a rough beginning of the season, then you found your stride and you look like you were unbeatable, and then the next thing you know, you lose a game that you should not have lost, and then you manage to win this weekend to get yourself in the playoffs. Can you beat Cincinnati again? Cincinnati, can you finally get over the hump? Kansas City, 10 games in a row. Can you make it 11? Houston, are you supposed to really be there, or is it because your division was so weak and you finished 9-7 versus the Colts finished 8-8? Carolina, you beat one team above 500. Can you make it 2 games, 2 teams above 500 this year? Arizona, are you the team that I think you are, the team that I predicted at the beginning of the season to go to the Super Bowl and be victorious? New England, are you the team that I think you are, and you be the AFC representative? I don't have you beating Arizona, but I have you going. Denver, is Peyton Manning ready to get over the hump and finally get into another Super Bowl and win, or is it going to be another one of those years where he falls flat? Or does Brock Osweiler, does he get the opportunity, or are they ready to move with the future? Just so many different scenarios here and so many different things with the NFL. Very, very, I know everybody is so ready to start weeding out and finding out whether or not it is finally the time to walk the walk, or is it just all talk? Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press reported on Johnson's outlook for the future. He has been dealing with a nagging ankle injury that's caused him to miss a lot of practice over the past 2 seasons, and per Burkett, he's mentioned retirement to at least one former teammate. The 6-time Pro Bowler publicly confirmed he is having doubts about his future on the gridiron, and the team responded to Johnson's statement per Terry Petrie of the team's official website. For immediate release statement from Calvin Johnson, Like many players at this stage of their career, I am currently evaluating options for my future. I would expect to have a decision regarding this matter in the not-too-distant future. Detroit's Lions statement, we obviously have profound respect for Calvin and certainly understand and appreciate his decision to give proper thought and consideration to his football future. I'll tell you what, I know 2 years of nagging injuries, and I understand that I understand the thoughts and you know the wear and tear and everything else that goes upon all of this, but I couldn't imagine there not being a Calvin Johnson right now in the NFL. Holds the single-year record for receiving yards. I'm sorry, but I have a serious issue with Calvin Johnson having that record over Jerry Rice because of the league, and it's nothing against Calvin Johnson. It just Jerry Rice is Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice will always be the best receiver that has ever played the game in my book. And to know that record was taken from him because of the league, not because of the performance on the field, because we are protecting the quarterbacks beyond ridiculous amounts, and because we are we're protecting the receivers and not letting the receivers. You're letting the receivers, you know, catch the ball and get a couple steps before basically you're out of contact. And I have a serious issue with it, and like I said, it's not to be meant to be any kind of disrespect towards Calvin Johnson. That's just where the league went, and you know it's unfortunate. You know we talked about it last week, I think, that the league's gotten to the point, and you know I'm sure we might even touch in a little bit of this when we get Rashad on the show, but the league has gone completely in the direction of protecting the quarterback and the wide receiver, the running back. There's no, and we were talking about when we were talking about this is the fewest in I think 20 years of receivers with 1,000 yards or more, and that's because there's no protection of the running back. Not that I feel that there is, but there's too much protection of the quarterback and wide receiver that the league has gone past happy and is not reliant or counting on the run or utilizing the run as much because there's no protection to the running back. There's no, hey, you need to let him get 10, 15 yards before you touch him. You know, it needs to be, if you're in the backfield, he needs to have an opportunity to get to the least of the line. I mean, there's so many ridiculous rules that, you know, you can literally, you know, just swing your arm and accidentally touch somebody and catch a penalty when it comes to the receiver and the quarterback. It is beyond ridiculous. And you know, there's no protection for it and no saying, you know, fairness when it comes to the running back. So I just when it comes to the NFL, I mean, honestly, at this point, when it comes to running back records, I hold a lot of weight. I feel that the NFL, because of I feel that I feel because of the lack of protection and the fact that the running backs get no kind of, you know, breaks, basically, that their records, what they do, is truly earned. This is not, you know, the receivers. You know, you got to understand that Dan Marino held the most passing yard record for like 20 years, or damn near 20 years. Then all of a sudden, you got quarterbacks throwing 5,000 yards, multiple quarterbacks 5,000 yards. I think this is the first year in a while that we didn't have a 5,000-yard passer. Before this year, we constantly had it, and we had multiple. And you could tell that, one, the league had shifted so far one way, it was ridiculous that it was making it so we was having all these receivers with the yardage that they were having, and we were having all these quarterbacks with the yardage they were having. Now you can tell that since they kind of backed off of it a little bit, the yardage ain't up so high, and defenses are having a little bit more of an opportunity to prevent. Scoring's down a little bit, yardage is down a little bit, and so we're finally starting to slightly get back in the right direction, but we're still nowhere close to what it was once upon a time when it was fun to watch, when we got to watch the Barry Sanders of the world and Walter Paytons of the world and the Damian Thomases and so forth and Kevin Max and Ernest Beiners and we don't get opportunity. That's why it's been so long since we've had running backs taken in the first rounds, because what's the point? If you know that you can get if you can find a quarterback that is good, he's going to be protected. No, you're hardly going to get anybody allowed to touch him. And I say that we've had a lot of injuries at quarterback this year, but and we've got a lot of non-contact and very simple injuries anyway. But when it comes to all the rest of the positions, I mean, honestly, the quarterback position is not I guarantee, not one of the top positions to have injury. I guarantee receivers, running backs, linemen, defensive linemen, quarterbacks, I guarantee we've lost a lot more of those in the league this year than we've lost the quarterbacks, even though we've lost a few quarterbacks. So, I mean, I don't know. I understand that Calvin Johnson, you made your money, and I don't blame you. I mean, if I'm in your shoes and I know that I've made my money and I am good and I can live the rest of my life without having to really do anything else or be still part of the sport, and that's the extent of my job at this point, I would say, you know what, I'm done too. I mean, honestly, why not? Why continue to put your body through physical harm? Why put your body in your health in danger? And, I've had the opportunity to sit down and watch the movie Concussion. And I understand, that the NFL knew, and I understand that the NFL had its opportunities to make things right. But at the same time, I like to play devil's advocate here for a second, because there is no doubt in my mind, and this is why I don't necessarily sympathize with the players, is because there's no doubt in my mind, if these players knew, without a doubt, that concussion, these concussions that they are suffering could hurt them in a bad way and cause, the problems that it's causing that we've seen out of the players that is affected. And they knew this going into their career, and and had it instilled in their contract. Look, this is what could possibly happen. Now, by signing this multi-million-dollar contract, you are giving up your rights to sue the NFL for anything such as the concussions or any injuries. I guarantee 99 out of 100 of these players would have signed that contract and played for those millions of dollars and took their chances. I'm just saying. And the reason I know this is because these players know without a shadow of a doubt that there is a possibility that they could walk on that field and not walk off. That there is a possibility that they could be hit in a way that they are paralyzed for life. That there is a possibility that they can have an injury that can cause them to have a permanent limp or, numbness in their body permanently, whatever the case may be. They already know this, and they're willing to play. So if the players are already willing to play, knowing that there's a possibility that they will walk off the field, that they may never feel their waist down ever again, and they're willing to play football, why would I think otherwise that the possibility that a concussion, which could have other side effects, would be something that all of a sudden, you know what, I'm willing to play through the possibilities that I may never walk again. Hell, I might die on that football field. Something you just don't know. Something, you get hit the wrong way, and something can erupt in your head, cause internal bleeding, cause, aneurysms or anything, whatever. You don't know. And they're out there playing every week. So why would I think anything different, knowing that there is a possibility that from a concussion that you can suffer from the CTE or CSE, whatever it's called. I'm sorry, but if they're willing to put their livelihood at risk already, knowing this, and if they're willing to put the possibilities of them ever walking again at risk so they can continue to play this sport, then there's no doubt in my mind that a concussion with the possibility of some other worse side effects is something that they're going to be willing to play through as well. I'm sorry, but there's no way that. And I guarantee you ask a couple of them, you're going to have a couple players just to be smart are going to say, you know what, I wouldn't play. And all I'm going to say is, well, you know that there's a possibility that you would never walk off that field, and yet you did. You know there's a possibility that something is going to go seriously wrong and you not live after a game or live through a game. I mean, I know the likelihood is very small compared to the hundreds of thousands of players that play football, and the few cases. I'm not trying to make it light, but compared to the number of players that play football versus the number of players that have suffered from the CTE or CSE, whatever it's called, it is a very small percentage. I can guarantee you that 99 out of 100 players will say, you know what, I will take my chances. I will play football, and I will make that money. I want to have the good life. No doubt in my mind. If you think otherwise, you're delusional. Delusional. Oh, we got Rashad joining us here in about 10 minutes. I don't want to jump. There you go. Jump into something too serious. Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza elected into Baseball Hall of Fame. Congratulations to both of those. Of the 32 names in this year's Hall of Fame ballot, only 2 were approved Wednesday by baseball writer to join the Immortals inside Cooperstown. Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza. Griffey, first ballot, earned 99.3% of the votes, a total that surpassed Tom Seaver's record of 98.84 in 1992. Griffey missed 3 ballots. Piazza, in his 4th Hall of Fame campaign, received 83%, up from the 69.9% that left him outside of Cooperstown a year ago. Of course, Piazza is the first one that is getting into the Hall of Fame that has any kind of steroid ties. The next highest vote ballots belongs to Jeff Bagwell, 71.6. Tim Raines, 69.8. Trevor Hoffman, 67.3. Other notables, Kurt Schilling, 52.3. Edgar Martinez, 43.4. And Mike Messino, 43. Players need 75% votes from eligible Baseball Writers Association of America members for enshrinement in the Hall of Fame. This year's election included 440 ballots, down from 549 a year ago after the BVWAA pared down its electric. The entire voting results of the Hall of Fame website. Many predicted the smaller voting panel, younger and more progressive, would help the PED clouded cases of Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. The most contentious names on the ballot both saw their vote totals rise this year. Bonds finished with 44.3%, up from 36.8%, and Clemens earned 45.2%, up from 37.5%. Both have a ways to go to reach that 75%, but their eventual enshrinement looks more possible now than it had in the past. Alan Trammell, 40.9, and Mark McGwire only 12.3. Kind of surprised with the Mike Piazza. Piazza, meanwhile, was drafted in the 62nd round at number 1,390th overall. He was an against-all-odds star who became one of the greatest offensive catchers of all time, hitting more homers than any catcher before him, finished with 427 homers, 396 of them as catcher. I'm just kind of surprised with the PED talks that surrounded Mike Piazza. Of course, never proved either way. I'm surprised that he got in as quick as he did. I know that Mike Barry Bonds is also sitting in the same boat here. Never proven of doing anything, and it's going to be interesting if and when we see a day that Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame. I know that I'm in a small percentage here. I'm in that 40%. I would vote him in. I'm sorry, but without hardcore proof, I can't keep somebody out that has done what he's done in the sport. And I mean, I'm not delusional. I remember what he looked like when he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I've seen what he looked like when he played for the San Francisco Giants. But you know what they say about assuming, and I can't sit there and say that, you know, without a doubt, without proof, I can't say, you know, hey, I can't vote him in because I think that he might have, because he you know, who knows? Maybe he's got, you know, the secret workout regimen. Maybe he knows exactly what to feed his body. I don't know. All I'm saying is, no, I'm not delusional. I don't think that Barry Bonds did it naturally, but without any proof at the same time, I can't sit there and say, you know what, I can't vote Barry Bonds in. And so, obviously, I can't be on that board because I would vote him in. Obviously wouldn't help none. He's still 35% away, basically, or 30% away, basically from getting into the Hall of Fame. But every time I would have to vote him in. If it was A-Rod or Mark McGwire or Sammy Sosa, yes, they've been proven, they've been admitted to what they did, and not only in A-Rod's situation, not only did you admit to it, then you got busted for doing it again. And, if anybody, it should never get put in the Hall of Fame. That should be A-Rod. Not that, I'm necessarily a stickler when it comes to the whole roid and HGH stuff. That's one of those things that a supplement is a supplement. And, if you're willing to put your body through, whatever possible harm's way, not that it's ever been proven that roids are really that bad for you. That's just kind of all fairy tale and made-up stuff, and really there's no permanent side effects or anything as long as you take it right. And just like any other supplements, there's really no bad effects to it. But that's here nor here. That's a whole different argument. I'm just saying that without actual evidence or proof that Barry Bonds took PEDs, I can't sit there and say that if I was on the board, I would say no. You have no proof. So like I said, I know I'm not in the majority in here. I know that there's a lot of baseball fans that are probably listening to the show shaking their head. I know that there's a lot of old timers that believe this game has been ruined because of the PEDs, but you also got to remember that's what also revitalized a dying sport. It wasn't until the home run race with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa that baseball even became a popular sport again. To each is just too old. Who knows how much longer it would have taken for this sport to find itself again if it wouldn't have been for Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. But, until it gets to a point that it's acceptable for these players that have done this, I agree, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, A-Rod, those are the players that have tested, Matt Braun, those that have actually tested positive or admitted to doing it. Yes, I feel at this point Major League Baseball is not ready to put you in the Hall of Fame. But you got the loophole. You got Barry Bonds that was never actually proven of anything. And you got a lot of older writers out there that still have a bitterness about it. And I'm sorry, I can't be in that same boat because without actual proof, I mean, just like OJ, if the glove don't fit, you got to quit. I mean, that's regardless if we believe that OJ killed Nicole Brown, without the proof, you can't put him in jail. And that's the same thing with Barry Bonds. We all know what we believe, but without any proof, you can't hold him accountable for it. And, so congratulations, Ken Griffey Jr. Congratulations to those that Mike Messina Mike Piazza for making it. Congratulations even more to Ken Griffey for almost 3 votes away, almost 100%. It don't get no better than that for a player. It is obviously you're now the sole possession of the highest vote percentage. But we got Rashad Mitchell joining us, author of 28 books. Very interested to get to know this guy. Not only is he joining us tonight, but we're also making this an opportunity for potential future visits, as obviously we're not going to get through 28 books in one sitting, and I am sure that this man has probably got a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that he would like to talk about. So looking forward to that. But most recently, which you can get on Amazon.com, he wrote a book that I don't want to jack up the title, even though here it is, the top 50 underrated running backs in NFL history. Kind of not going to give it all away, so you guys can go out and get it on Amazon.com. But we're going to pick his brain a little bit of some of the running backs he's got in his top 50, and maybe get a couple out of the top 10 out of him, just to give you guys an idea of what he's got on his list, and make you guys a little bit even more curious to go out and get this book. But without any further delay, let's get our guest on here tonight. Rashad, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing good tonight. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I'm glad to have an opportunity to talk to you. I'm glad that you hit me up, and glad that we were able to work our schedules out to do this. What I'd like to do before we get into this is I'd like to give you an opportunity to plug yourself. In other words, social media, Twitter, Facebook, website, anything you have going on. That way the listeners have an opportunity to follow you, be able to have conversations with you, get to know more about the books you published, whatever the case may be.
Okay, well, first and foremost, my name is Rashad Mitchell. I'm from Paterson, New Jersey. I've written 28 books, including this new book that I came out with, the top 50 underrated NFL running backs. And, they can reach me on Twitter. My Twitter account is Rashad Mitchell at Rashad Patterson, or you can go into the address box and type in twitter.com/Rashad Patterson. Also on Facebook, Rashad Mitchell, and the other Facebook page is Rashad Mitchell's Books. And also I do write for a magazine called Gyroscope Media Group magazine. You can take a look at that. The issues that we have out, and I write cover stories. I'm the main writer for the magazine. I write cover stories, and I write blogs, historical type of blogs, and I have my website, Mr. Rashad Mitchell.weebly.com. That's www.mrrashad Mitchell www.Mr. We put MRRASHAD MITCHELL.weebly.com. Mr. Rashad Mitchell .weebly.com. That's my personal website. So my books are all up there. Not all of them, but the books that were up there before I came out with the other books, especially this one. So you can check me out on my website, www.mrrashadmitchell.weebly.com.
Now, top 50 running backs is the one you most currently have wrote. What inspired you to put this list together, and how long did it take you to go through the history of the NFL and assemble this list?
First and foremost, I wanted to do it because most of my books that I've written deals with underrated. My hip hop books, I've written 14 of those. Most of those are underrated, top 50, top 100 underrated. Some other stuff probably might be like the top 50 greatest, samples, the top 50 greatest groups in hip hop. But the underrated theme has been my main theme through my R&B books, rhythm and blues books, and I wanted to do it into the sports genre. It's my first sports book, so I wanted to add the underrated term to this because there's been a lot of running backs that I felt was unappreciated, don't get the same conversation in terms of being like the greatest running backs or be mentioned. Now I did the research. It didn't take me that long. Internet was my best key tool to get all the information that I needed. It didn't take that long. I mean, I'm a quick worker. I mean, I do books very quickly. I might take a week and a half, but I like getting things, knocking out books quickly. I want to take my time with it, but just want to get it out there and just so I can be out there and just go on to the next project. So it wasn't like a difficult task. It wasn't nothing that was difficult to research. Just the internet was great. The way to go to research what I had to research. It came out good. I think I got a well planned out list. It's very interesting. I got some Hall of Famers on the list, but just because a person is in the Hall of Fame doesn't mean like they are celebrated as those who are bigger than those Hall of Famers. So most of the people that are on this list are not in the Hall of Fame. That's one of the reasons why I wrote it too, because there have been good backs and they've been some great backs, but they're not in the Hall of Fame. So that's how it came about.
And I definitely agree. I was talking about it a little bit earlier in the show. The NFL has gotten to a point now that the wide receivers and the quarterbacks are so protected, and really the only one that is not protected is the running back. I mean, you can literally go last Boy Scout on a running back, and there's no kind of penalty, no kind of personal foul, nothing. And so, and like I was saying earlier, that the records that are held by running backs are really the only records that I really hold any value to. We went almost 20 years or so with Dan Marino holding the most passing yards until the NFL went into this direction of protecting the quarterbacks so bad that now all of a sudden you got quarterbacks all the time who are passing for 5,000 yards or so. And just like receiving, I mean, to me it's an insult, especially growing up in the generation that I grew up in, that we have so many, that we have Calvin Johnson. And it's no disrespect to Calvin Johnson. I was talking about him earlier, possibly retired. It's no disrespect to Calvin Johnson, but I'm sorry, but Jerry Rice to me is a much better receiver. But because of the way the league has gone, now you have Calvin Johnson with the single season record for most passing or receiving yards versus Jerry Rice. So I 100% agree with you. And an interesting fact of 2015. 7 1,000-yard rushers. That's the fewest in the NFL since 1991. And that's got a lot to do with where the league has gone and why the league is not drafted. Until last year we had Melvin Gordon go in the first round. We haven't seen a first-round running back in a long time because of the way this league has gone, and that kind of ties into the unappreciation of the running back. And I think a lot of people take the running back for granted. and don't really realize how much work goes into being a running back.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All the points you made was very valid because we live in a quarterback-driven league, and everything is so geared to the quarterback. If you breathe on them or whatever it is, you hit them on the knees or whatever. No, it's illegal to do that, but at the same time, it's a physical game, and the running backs have been of lesser value. And you gave great information. You said that there only been this year season, it was only 7 1,000-yard running backs this year. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, man. And that's the thing. The running back position is important because the running game is a quarterback's best friend. It takes the pressure off the quarterback. You don't have to be throwing so much. You mentioned, Calvin Johnson. Yeah, it looks like he's going to try to retire. But he's been banged up, took a lot of hits. I guess he, been banged up or whatever, but maybe, who knows his motives, but he's been a great receiver, but you're right. I'd take Jerry Rice over him anytime because you see the cornerbacks, the defensive backs, and any defensive back that was great. You can play bump and run. You can, hold them, grab them, throw them off their pattern. But now you can't do none of that stuff. You get penalties. If you hit somebody across the middle, it's an automatic 15-yard penalty. So it's like flag football, and the refs are being so broken so quick, and it's everything's getting to the quarterback. It's like a video game. So that's an unfortunate thing. I mean, look at Odell Beckham. I mean, he has to have the best start ever for a wide receiver in his first 2 seasons. I mean, this guy is just, and again, he's a great player, but some of it has to do with the defense can't do certain things that they used to do. So they changed the rules. I think if you go back to 2004, it was a playoff game against the Patriots and the Colts. I think they kind of changed the rules because of how physical the Patriots cornerbacks was against the receivers. So they opened it up even more for the court. I don't know if you remember that at that time, because they definitely wanted to open it up more for the offense to have an advantage over the defense.
Now to your point, and a couple of things real quick. One, and for anybody listening, we're not trying to be disrespectful of Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson is a freak in nature. His size, his strength, he is a great receiver. We're comparing apples and oranges. I'm sorry, Jerry Rice is the greatest all time, and I completely agree with what you're saying. And I was talking a little bit about this before you came on. Just the rule changes, the unprotected receivers or whatever they call that. I agree 100%. And to me, it's really a disrespect to Jerry Rice and what he did for the sport and what he meant to the sport. To your other point, Odell Beckham, 2,755 yards, the quickest player, the most receiving yards in a player's first 2 seasons in the NFL history. I agree, Odell. Not that I'm an Odell Beckham fan. I don't like the Giants. I'm not a Beckham fan at all. But I appreciate what he can do. I can appreciate the catches he makes. He's phenomenal with his hands. What made you transition into what you normally did, and you're talking about hip-hop, R&B books, to writing a sports book? And two, how big of a fan are you, and what team is your team?
Okay, well, first with the I wrote the hip hop and R&B book. I also wrote poetry books. I just wanted to show that I'm versatile as an author.
Gotcha.
I think I just want to be able to prove to myself, not to anybody else, but to myself that I'm capable of writing different kinds of books. I won't be stuck in one box. So I set that challenge to try to write different kinds of books from different genres. So it's like the fourth genre of books that I've written: poetry, I've written hip hop and R&B. Now I'm writing sports books. So this is like the fourth genre of books that I've written. So I just set that as a challenge. And plus, I love NFL. I mean, it's just the NFL. It's the national pastime, and there's a lot of parity. Some teams that are consistent, but it's just competitive and it's a great sport to watch on TV. As for my favorite team, the New York Giants. I like them since the 80s. I've been with them through the good times and the bad. I'm not a fair weather, Giants fan. I always loved them. Because the thing is, the Giants went through a drought before Eli won the Super Bowl. They hadn't won like a Super Bowl since 1990 at the time. They already had 2 Super Bowls, so they win their 3rd Super Bowl in 2007. Then they won another one in 2011. So the Giants are a great franchise. They got great history. They got like the 3rd most NFL championships, 8. Because when you look at the NFL championship era before the Super Bowl era, because it's been around, 50 years, they won 4 NFL championships, and then the Giants won 4 Super Bowls. So you combine that, they got 8. So that's not bad, They got great tradition. So they up there with the Bears, the Packers. They've been around since 1925. So they know. I mean, you're not gonna win it all the time. It's sad to see Coughlin leave, but that is what it is. Hopefully they get it rectified and get back to winning, playoff games again, championships.
And I want to ask you about Tom Coughlin here in a second, but I'm glad you brought that up because I'm a long-time Browns fan. And obviously there's a lot of things that the NFL or NFL fans don't recognize, and whether it's post-Super Bowl era or what the case may be. And one of those things that people don't recognize, you're willing to recognize the 8 championships, counting prior Super Bowl, just like a lot of Cleveland Browns fans. I think we have like 8 as well. Prior to the Super Bowl, we have 8 championships. But more specific is the fact that the Cleveland Browns were technically the first professional football team to go undefeated. At 48, they went undefeated. Then you had the 72 Dolphins, and then, well, that's it at that point. The Giants ended up ruining the New England Patriots run. And a lot of people's excuses for why they don't recognize the Cleveland Browns is, one, they try to say, the talent level was not the same. Well, you could say the same thing from the 72 Dolphins to where we are now. The talent is not nowhere as close and as good as talent-wise. The game might not be as tough, and and the players might not be as physical as they once were, but I think we have much more talent across the board than we once did in 72. And then also they want to throw out that the game count, because the Browns only had to go 13-0 to be an undefeated season versus the Miami Dolphins, who had to go 16-0. But once again, you could have the same argument, because in order for you to go undefeated now, you got to go 19-0. A person to you that likes a little bit of history of the sports and history of your team, would you have an issue with recognizing the Cleveland Browns being the first undefeated professional team, even though it was 48 and before it was known as the NFL?
Oh yeah, I respect the history. Look at Paul Brown. They don't talk about how great of a coach this guy was. I mean, he invented a lot of stuff, like the playbook, I think. The chalkboard where he teach people how to design what the diagram, the plays and stuff like that. He was an inventor of a lot of stuff as a coach. He doesn't get mentioned at all as the greatest ever. He should be, because he won a lot of championships, and plus they talk about Vince Lombardi and all that. But you look at Paul Brown, he should have something named after him. But fortunately, that's not the case. And plus, look who he had. He had Otto Grimm, who might be the greatest quarterback people don't know about. This guy won, 7 championships. He had Marion Motley, obviously Jim Brown. He coached him. Bobby Mitchell, I think he coached him. So this guy, coached a lot of, great talent. So I do respect what them going undefeated and doing their thing, because, yeah, they got a lot of championships. And it's just like sad to see what's going on right now with the organization. It's such in disarray. I mean, you got to understand, this is a franchise that's been so successful that it can't just get out of their own way. There's no stability, no continuity at all.
You have no idea. I was talking about it last night. At this point, I don't even care if we make the playoffs. I want a 500 season. We have only had 3 500 or better seasons since 1990. So we're going on 25, 26 years at this point, and only had 3 seasons of above 500. I would just be happy with 8-8 at this point. Being a Giants fan, how important do you feel Tom Coughlin was to this organization, but also to you being a fan, how tough do you think it's going to be finding another coach such as Tom Coughlin?
Tom Coughlin was a disciplinarian. Obviously, he got his start with the Giants before he became a coach in 1988 to 1990 as a wide receiver coach. And the bottom line is this guy was a disciplinarian, and, yeah, it was tough for players to accept what he was about. He was so strict. But the thing is, he won a couple of Super Bowls, and the problem with Coughlin is that the teams just didn't make the playoffs on a consistent basis. Now, obviously, it's not realistic that you're going to win a championship every year. No, you can go to the playoffs every year. That's always possible, but it doesn't mean you're going to win. Just get a crack at winning a championship. That's the thing. You missed in the playoffs 6 times in the last 7 years, and, you know, that's the thing that hurts his legacy, is that, you know, as a coach, they didn't go to the playoffs on a consistent basis enough, especially in this division that they're in. They could have been more successful, maybe one or two more. But you move on. I respect Coughlin. I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. I think he should go in. I think he's made his mark. This is a good coach as Parcells was, and one of the great coaches the best coaches in Giant history. So he will be missed. You know, he's going to be a tough act to follow. But I think the Giants just got to make the right decisions and be smart about it. And that's that. No, it's not all his fault. Obviously, it's the player's fault. You know, only he can do is coach and inspire. So you can't make somebody get a first down. You can't play defense. It's probably the worst thing that happened this year. The Giants just couldn't stop nobody. You know, they had so many leads, and they just couldn't stop anyone. So, Coughlin is definitely going to be missed.
I definitely understand. You know, and I'm not a Giants fan, but I can appreciate it, especially the 2 years they went to the Super Bowl. Correct me if I'm wrong, but both years y'all went and won the Super Bowl with the 2 recent times anyway, you guys were a wild card in 9 and 7 teams. You guys didn't even win the division that year. You guys barely slid in and then ran the table from that point. So you definitely going to appreciate, you know, how tough it was for them to even get into the playoffs, but then put it all together at the right time. And then, of course, that historic game against the 18-0 at the time Patriots. There's a lot you could say about the New York Giants and what they have accomplished under Tom Coughlin. This book you got, the top 50 underrated running backs in NFL history. One, is this just the beginning of your sports, side of it? Or are there going to be other underrated, such as quarterbacks, wide receivers, or anything? Or what else are you going to pursue when it comes to the sporting world?
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing that. Since you brought it up, I'm currently going to be working on doing something with the quarterbacks, the rated quarterbacks and wide receivers. Mostly like every position I'm going to try to do in the NFL. I'm just going to do it from different sports, NFL, NBA, maybe baseball, something like that. But I'm just focused on the NFL genre of, the sport right now. So, I got the quarterback book going to be coming soon. I'm just going to do that, and I'd love to be on your show to talk about that. But, I'm going to continue to do the same thing.
That's really cool. And I admire that because, when I jumped into doing this whole, the 110 Nation almost 5 years ago, one, I had no idea what I was getting into, but one of the last things I ever thought I was going to get into was anything to do with blog, anything that has to do with writing, because English and writing was not my strong forte. I could sleep through math class and get an A. And I had a lot of interest in history and other classes, writing, the adjectives, pronouns, nouns, run-on sentences, pronunciation, everything. That is not me. So for me to even be in this whole area is something different. But to have the patience, I can honestly admit there is only one book that I've sat there and had read to me from beginning to end, and that was Where the Red Fern Grows. And I want to say it was 5th grade. It was one of those grades. Outside of that, I have never sat and read a book. I'm always the person that, if, I've read many articles, I'll read Sports Illustrated, if it's sports related, it'll at least hold my attention, that I'll at least read sections of it or different, chapters of a book. But I'm always that type, if it's good enough, it'll be a movie. So to have the patience to sit there and write a whole book, I don't know if I could ever, I sat there and thought about it, and then I sit there and smack myself in the back of the head and say, you know what, you're not a writer. This is not you. So I have a lot of respect for someone that can sit there and put it together and write a book.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Like I said, I do it for the love. I love to write. I've been writing since I was at grammar school, writing lyrics and notebooks, and I went from that to writing for the college newspaper, to writing for the Passaic County Post in Patterson, New Jersey. I no longer write for them. I went from that to being a public self-published author a couple of years ago, and now I'm writing for a magazine. So I went through so many stages of writing. So this is not like a gimmicky thing. It's been birthed in me since I was a child. So I'm just grateful that I'm still doing one thing. I've been through my ups and downs, but I think it's starting to come full circle. With what I'm doing, and your show is gonna be one of those shows I can get on and discuss whatever books I have, including this one. And like I said, it's all about the love. That's why I do what I do, for the love.
Now, I don't want to give a lot of the book away, because I want people to go get it and check it out, and go over to Amazon.com and get it for to purchase the book. But I want to give them a little preview. So what I want you to do is give me one name that in your top 50 that maybe people wouldn't have thought would be in your top 50. One name that is ranked maybe more towards the end, like 50 or 40 or 50, that most people would have probably thought would have been closer to the front. And then give me one name in your top 10.
Okay, so you want me to go from 40 to 50 to pick one running back?
Yeah, someone somewhere between maybe 35 to 50 that most people would have thought, that I could have seen that name maybe in the top 15 or top 10 or something, but you put them back in the back somewhere for your own personal reason, or maybe they didn't know as much about this particular person as you did, and that's why you put them more towards the back. Maybe and maybe if I would have picked my top 50, they would have probably been more towards the front.
Okay, let me go with number one. I'll go with, I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. I gotta go with Clinton Portis.
Okay.
Clinton Portis. Yeah, he used to play with the Denver Broncos and the Washington Redskins. Yeah, he was a guy that made a lot of big impact on the game. Won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He had over 1,500 yards in his first 2 seasons as a Bronco. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry. And also, that was like an NFL record for a running back's first 2 seasons to rush for over 1,500 yards and average 5.5 per carry. And then he was like the youngest player to ever score 4 touchdowns against the Kansas City Chiefs in 2002 on December 15th. Then he did the same thing a year later against the Chiefs. He scored 5 touchdowns. He became the youngest ever player to ever do that. But he went to the Washington Redskins. He had a great season in 2005. He had 1,516 yards rushing. He became the 3rd runner in league history to reach 1,500 yards in 3 of his first 4 seasons. He set a lot of records. I mean, he's like, in terms of like the youngest player aspect, like he was the youngest player to rush for 2,000 yards in his career, 3,000 yards, 4,000, 6,000. And Portis had rushed for 9,923 yards and 75 touchdowns. So I look at him as like a borderline Hall of Famer, no doubt, because he never gets mentioned. He never was mentioned like he never gets mentioned. Like we talk about the greatest running backs, he's never going to get that kind of shine. But even when he was playing, I don't think people realized how great he was as the greatest running back of his time when he was playing in the league. So Clinton Portis, I think, definitely deserves to be on this list. I got him at number 47.
Now, who do you have more towards the front, maybe somewhere between 10 and 30, that someone might not even thought they would be on your list?
10 and 30?
Yeah, somewhere maybe between 10 and 30 or so that they probably wouldn't even have thought they would make the top 50 of underrated running backs.
Okay, we go to this is an interesting person. I don't think you heard of this guy, but he definitely filled the shoes of probably the greatest running back of all time. And his name is Leroy Kelly. He replaced Jim Brown in 65, because now Leroy Kelly was drafted by the Cleveland Browns from Morgan State in 1964. So he was a 6-time Pro Bowler, and he was inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1994. But at the same time, I don't think people realize how great of a back this guy was. His best seasons was from the mid to late 60s. He scored a total of 49 touchdowns on the offensive side of the ball. He scored 16 rushing touchdowns in 1968, which was a career high, and he showed that he was able to replace Jim Brown. He didn't have like more rushing yards than Jim Brown, obviously, but he had a very successful career. He ran for 7,274 yards rushing in his career, and he had 74 rushing touchdowns. So I think I have him at number 22 because, I think he deserved to be up there at that point because, again, you talk about Jim Brown. I mean, this guy, is recognized as the greatest running back ever, maybe the greatest player ever in NFL history. And to him to retire like he did, and you get a guy from a small college in Morgan State, and Leroy Kelly, he becomes a Pro Bowler 6 times, and then his career becomes a Hall of Fame career, being inducted in 1994 as a Hall of Famer. I mean, that's not easy because, Jim Brown was a tough act to follow, and this guy, Leroy Kelly, was able to replace him seamlessly without any, problem. I mean, that's not easy to do. I mean, when you have a great player retire, it's tough to replace that. It's like when Joe Montana, was that, he was like the shadow that was over Steve Young. But Steve Young was able to get out of that shadow and win a Super Bowl. And he did that, throwing 6 touchdowns against the Chargers in Super Bowl 29. So it's the same thing. Not that Leroy Kelly was under the shadow of Jim Brown, but his impact on the game and for the Cleveland Browns was just a tough act to follow. But he was able to at least provide his own way of saying, hey, I can play this and continue to be effective at the running back position. And that's what Leroy Kelly did.
Now, I want one name out of the top 10. You don't have to give us what place you rank them. That way they have to go look it up. But someone in the top 10 that you felt was underrated.
Okay, underrated. Okay. It's a lot to pick. Let me see. But he's not in the Hall of Fame. But I think he definitely should be in the Hall of Fame because he did a lot of stuff that a lot of running backs wasn't doing till like later on. Roger Craig. Craig, man, he played with the 49ers. Obviously, he played with the Raiders and the Vikings, but he always will be a 49er. He was Marshall Faulk before Marshall Faulk. This guy was an all-purpose back of the highest order, ran 3 Super Bowl rings, and he brought that toughness to the 49er offense. I mean, everybody looked at the 49ers of the 80s as a finesse team, but they were tough because they had a guy in Craig who ran hard with the knees being so high, the high knees style. He ran hard and he accomplished a lot. In 1985, he was the first NFL player to have 1,000 yards receiving and running for 1,000 yards. And in Super Bowl 19, he was the first player to score 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. And then in the 88 season, he had won the Offensive Player of the Year, and he had 1,502 yards. He's the only running back to have 100 yards receiving in the Super Bowl. So this guy should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. His credentials, I think, speak for itself. I mean, this guy had 8,189 career yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, including 17 touchdown receptions. So this guy made his mark running the ball and catching it. So, yeah, Roger Craig, man, I don't understand why he's not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's a shame because, yes, you had Montana and Rice, Steve Young, and, their offense was explosive, no question about it. But when you look at Craig, I mean, he was the best back Joe Montana ever played with the 49ers. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, maybe ever in his career. So he showed that he was a great player in his own right. And he was able to, have that balance outside of just them being a passing offense, but they was able to run the ball too. And Roger Craig, definitely in the top 10.
I definitely I'm going to check out this book. I'm looking forward to seeing the future books that you have out there, and of course try to catch some of the older books. I'm a fan of hip hop. I grew up in the era of growing up loving to listen to Tupac, Bone Thugs and Harmony. I got a bunch of Too Short CDs, so I'd love to see who you got on your unappreciated or underrated books when it comes to hip hop, R&B, and all the other genres you wrote in. But more specifically, I'm going to definitely check out yours top 50 running backs, and then looking forward to future books from you. Have you began on any on the next project, or are you still brainstorming on what you're going to do?
Yeah, I just started. Today. Yeah, I started today a little bit on my the quarterback book, the underrated NFL quarterbacks. Yeah, I just started on that. I'm not done yet. I'm gonna try to get that done pretty soon, and hopefully I'll talk about that on your show. It's gonna be the top 50 underrated NFL quarterbacks. There's a lot of them, and it's gonna be a shocking, revealing list, and so I'm always gonna bring an element of surprise on all of my lists, because that's what it's all about. It's not about being predictable. You gotta be unpredictable, and that's what I'm gonna bring with this list when I come out with that. Just like with this list of running backs, you got some surprises and that people probably don't think, oh, he was underrated. I don't think so. But when you really look at people, this running back was underrated. So it's all about coming out with facts and to back up what I say, and that's what it's about with, according to the book that I did with the running backs.
Definitely looking forward to it, and we'll make a point to make sure I check out. As in the process of moving right now, so we got stuff scattered across 2 different places, so things are kind of hectic here at the studio and at the house. But definitely going to check out your running back book, and looking forward to having you back on to talk about the next book you get published, and looking forward to talking more NFL with you when we get a chance to get you back on here. Rashad, it's been very enjoyable having you on. I'm glad that we got you on. Looking forward to having you back. Make sure that you keep in touch, and we'll get you back on here real soon.
Okay, where are you located at?
We're based out of North Carolina.
Oh, you're in North Carolina?
Yep.
What part of North Carolina?
I'm literally right now. I'm on the backyard of Fort Bragg. Like, I can literally, from my front door where I stay at right now, I could throw a rock and hit a Humvee from where I'm at right now. Getting ready to move on the other side of town. I'll be about 5-10 minutes from Fort Bragg. More commonly, most people know Fayetteville, North Carolina. About an hour from Raleigh, but I'm right here on right on the back door of Fort Bragg.
Oh, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Okay. Well, like I said, man, I hope that this will be the first of many appearances on your show. No, I've reached out to you for a reason, and I thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir. Definitely
okay,
stay in contact. Definitely keep in touch, and we'll definitely get you back on. It was very enjoyable to have you on, and looking forward to getting you back on here.
You want okay? Are you gonna send a link of the episode to my email?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. You have a great night.
Have a great night too. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Rashad Mitchell. Make sure you guys check out his book, The Top 50 Underrated Running Backs in NFL History. You guys can get that at on Amazon.com. Also, check out his other books. He's got 28 books out there, so obviously a great writer and a well-published guy, so make sure you guys check that out. Definitely looking forward to going through the top 50 and see who else has made that list. Some great names. Clinton Portis, other than the fact that he made news lately for being bankrupt. Excellent football player. I don't even know if I knew he even played for Denver. I know he definitely played for Washington. I have a lot of Washington friends, so we of course that was always front row and center. But learned a little bit tonight. Definitely love having new guests on, getting to talk to new people. Very informative person, Rashad is, so very excited. Not only checking out that book, but seeing who makes the top 50 in the quarterbacks. I feel there's a lot of, not that there wasn't a lot of running backs underrated, but a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, not the league's not always been this protective of the quarterbacks. And there's been a lot of quarterbacks that are been unappreciated over the years and underrated. So definitely looking forward to sitting down and catching who's made his list and on both of these topics and getting back on and then not only talking about the books but talking about NFL period. So definitely going to get Rashad back on here and get to know him a little bit more and have him on here giving us some of his knowledge. Don't forget, we got the 110 Nation Morning Show tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., as we do every Monday through Friday. Had a blast this morning. If you guys missed it, don't forget you can catch all our shows on either Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, the I-95 Sports Network. Just multiple ways. Make sure you guys check out my Twitter at CJSports1, the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check out my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports, the 110 fan page, 110 Nation Sports. You can check out our site, www.the110nation.com. You can check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. For all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. Don't forget also, not tomorrow, due to Steve Villmeyer being in the hospital in the holidays, he will not make it. Racing with Big Sweat will not be making its return tomorrow night, but it will be returning to our network January 14th, next Thursday. Sam Edwards is going to be joining him on the show, making a return to the 110 Nation. For those that don't know Sam Edwards, he used to be on Monday nights with me. We would talk NASCAR for about an hour. A race car driver himself, very knowledgeable, does a lot of things, and is on different shows. Him and Steve used to be together on a show back in the day, so they reunited. So looking forward to having him back. Also, Sunday nights, 9 p.m., Midwest Horsepower Hour with Damian Bean. Show's getting a lot of momentum. It's had some really big names in the first 2 weeks the show's been on the air. He's got two really big names coming this Sunday night on the show, so looking forward to that. If you're interested in hosting a show, or maybe you got a show that you want to syndicate on our network, because right now we got 17 hours of our 35 hours used. By July 1st, we want to use all 35 hours. So if you want to host your own show, or maybe you want to come in and co-host, or maybe you're an expert in a certain sport or field and you want to come on 30 minutes a week or so, or like I said, if you got your own show that you want to get syndicated, we'll just replay it back in a time slot on our network, hit me up, MrCJSports@gmail.com. Also, if you're interested in writing for our blog site, all you got to do is hit me up, MrCJSports@gmail.com. Also, if you're interested in coming on the show, there's one of two ways. Normally, I just point you into the way of Miss Lee, but I know she's been having internet issues. Normally, I would send you over to Miss Lee, which is LEE_110nation@yahoo.com. But right now, if you're interested to come on the show, also hit me up, MrCJSports@gmail.com, until Miss Lee gets everything situated and we get her back at 100%. As like I said, I know she's having some difficulties right now with some internet stuff, so make sure you guys do that as well. What else do I got to put out there before we jump into the next topic? NASCAR, really? Franchising and everything. They go left field with this. So looking forward to talking about this. If you missed last night's show, we had Izzo on, our NHL expert, for the last 30 minutes of the show from 10:30 on. Had a great time talking about the junior tournament, talking about the Winter Classics. We talked about the All-Star. And if you guys didn't keep up with him on Twitter today, make sure you guys go back to his time feed at 110 Puckhead, as he was dropping the names of those that are making the All-Star team coming up here January 31st. So make sure you guys go over there and interact with him over there on Twitter. Seems like there's something else I wanted to say before I jumped into this next topic, but I don't know. I'm drawing a blank right now. It's been a long week, all the moving and everything else. NASCAR and Sprint Cup teams moving closer to a charter system. Yes, a charter system. NASCAR and Sprint Cup teams are moving closer to an agreement that would guarantee team starting spots for all races this season, according to reports by the Sports Business Journal. Both sides said last month that they were cautiously optimistic a deal could be done before February 21st, the Daytona 500. Sports Business Journal, citing sources, reported Monday that both sides are examining the contract. Like most things, the devil's in the details. Rob Kaufman, chairman of the Race Team Alliance, told Sports Business Journal it's a multi-year agreement, so it's important that the details are right. The report states that the agreement would be for 5 years, matching the length of the recent agreements NASCAR did with the tracks that play host to Sprint Cup, Xfinity, and Cup Camping World Truck Series races. By being granted a guaranteed spot in every race via a quote-unquote charter, teams would be able to assure sponsors they would not miss an event. A charter system would also allow teams to better forecast race earnings and provide greater value should an owner seek to sell their stake. The report states that original plans called for 36 charter for a 40-car field, which would be down from a 43-car field race run this past season. My thoughts on this. I don't know if I necessarily agree to this, that I necessarily like this. I understand that this sport, more than any other sport, is sponsor-driven, and I understand this. And I can appreciate what they're trying to do to try to make sure that they secure a spot to make sure that, you know, their sponsors know that they are going to be there for all 36 races. But where I have an issue with this is I want the best of the best out there. So why am I wanting to see 36 of the 40 spots guaranteed when there's potentially 5 guys that are better than the 36 guaranteed? I mean, that's like saying to me that the Washington Redskins, because of sponsor obligations and to ensure that, you know, they're going to possibly sell a certain amount of tickets, that they're going to guarantee RG3 to be quarterback, even though he's not the best quarterback for that team. And so I didn't like the system prior that the 36 were automatically locked in, which even though NASCAR rewrote the rules and they did the fastest 36, then it fell on points to fill the next 4 spots, then it was a provisional, then you basically had the same way. It was just rewritten to sound better. It was rewritten to make it seem like we were getting the best, the most competitive, the fastest cars in the race. And all it was rewording of a rule that was already there, so nothing really changed. Now you're telling me that they're wanting to secure the top, the 36 spots, regardless how they perform. And like I said, I understand that this is the most sponsor-driven sport there is. And yes, I understand that sponsors are putting out a lot of money to put their logo on the car, and they want to have some kind of guarantee that they're going to be out there every single race. I understand this. But these companies also understand that there is no guarantees, that these drivers are going to do everything they can to put themselves in a position that they're on the track every single week. And obviously, if you want a better chance of you being on that track every week, that means you need to fork out a little bit more money instead of sponsoring the David Stremmings of the world or the Bobby Labanis and the Terry Labanis that are past their prime. You need to fork out more money and sponsor the Jimmy Johnsons and the Dale Juniors of the world. I mean, you get what you pay for. You know, and I know that I know it sucks, and I know that these companies, when they invest into these drivers, they're under the assumption that if I'm going to spend so much hundreds or millions of dollars, that you're going to be on the track. But like I said, they also understand that there is no guarantee in the sport. And you're taking a risk. You're investing, and I don't know the exact details on how that happens if they don't make the race. Does that sponsorship roll over to a race they make? Does that, do they get some kind of, I don't know all the details of that. I just know that there's no guarantees, and I like the fact there's no guarantees. I want the most competitive cars out there. I don't want it to be, we got a charter system. We're going to only, we're going to, the next 36 or the first, these 36 are guaranteed regardless how piss poor they perform, no matter where they qualify at, no matter if they make it through practice or anything, they're guaranteed a spot. I don't like that. I like the fact that they're shrinking the field, even though we've gotten to a point that we got a few more competitive cars. I remember just a few years ago, we sitting there watching this sport, and, we would have a lot of park and dones, starting parks. We've kind of gotten away from that. I don't think that we see any. If we do, not that many. That number is greatly decreased, and I appreciate that. So one side of me, wants to say, what, I like what they're doing with that, shrinking the field. That way it eliminates even more of the starting parks. But another side of me says, what, we've seen a little bit more competitiveness out of that back part of the field, that 41st, 42nd, 43rd car. Not always, but, it's there. And so I don't know if I don't know. I got to say I like the 40 cars. 43 cars is a lot of cars anyway, especially when you do these short tracks. And by 5 laps in the race, you're running up in the back ends of the field and everything else. So I guess I don't really have that much of an issue with them shrinking the field at all. But it's more of the thing that I don't like it being guaranteed. I don't like knowing that 36 spots are guaranteed. I want the best of the best. I mean, that's just like going in the season and saying, what, KT and let's use Verizon, since they I don't know if everybody else has it, but I know the Red Zone NFL. So Verizon has guaranteed us if one of these 4 teams make the Super Bowl, that they kick in an extra some odd millions of dollars. And Pepsi guarantees the same thing. These 3 big major sponsors or whatever, as long as one of these 4 teams, so we got to guarantee these sponsorships that, and I'm just going to throw out 4 teams. 4 teams that, let's do the top 4 teams. So Denver, New England, Carolina, and Arizona. Not my top 4 teams, just the 4 teams that have the first-round byes this year. Those going into the season, those 4 were guaranteed a spot in the Super Bowl. One of those 4 teams. I mean, that's essentially what you're telling me. And I know it's not the same because it's not the Super Bowl. It's 36 weeks of racing. But that's kind of the same thing that I'm getting out of this. Is we're guaranteeing something that should not be guaranteed. We're saying that, even though they might not be the best car out there, because of sponsor obligation, we're going to put them on the track. No. This is what people keep talking about every year, about how this sport has become corporate-driven and sponsor-driven. Like I said, I understand that this league or this sport is more sponsor-driven than any other sport, but at some point you got to make cuts. You got to figure out something that these teams can afford to have the sponsors they have, be able to afford to do this sport at a cheaper cost, so you don't guarantee 36 spots to who is possibly not the 36 best, fastest, most productive cars out there. Sorry, but that's not giving you the best product. That's not guaranteeing anything. That's just guaranteeing the sponsors what they want. That's not guaranteeing what the fans want. I mean, good God. Let's really think about it. And obviously it's going to happen. And like I said, I understand the sponsors want some kind of guarantee. I mean, they're forking out a lot of money. I mean, you get to these bigger names such as Dale Jr., you're talking millions of dollars in sponsorship money. So, I mean, I have an issue with it. I really freaking do. No. Co-owners have been lobbying in NASCAR for years to implement a franchising-style system similar to other professional sports, arguing that their teams have little value without sponsorship. Since 2011, Marco Waltrip Racing, Swan Racing, Red Bull Racing are Sprint Cup teams that have closed their doors. NWR announced last season that they would not continue after Kaufman left as co-owner to be a co-owner at Chip Ganassi Racing. This is not so much to do. This is something that the Marco, and I hate that they threw this in there in this report. The Marco Waltrip thing, that is more so a product of the whole Clint Boyer, Martin Truex, all that went on at that Richmond race to try to get all the MW cars into, or a second car, I don't remember how many cars they were trying to get into the chase. And them not being slick as the other teams and having their own codes or signs or orders already. Instead, they blabbed it over the radio. That is all that is. That, to me, is not got anything to do. Once Napa pulled themselves out of it, Martin Truex left his ride, had lost his ride, and then you started trying to fit other pieces in there, and you just never caught back up. That's all that was. If that never would have happened, MWR probably would still be going in full force and moving in the right direction. They were. They every year they were getting competitively better. It's ever since then things just kind of went back in the other direction. Now, when you start naming these other teams, Swan Racing, Red Bull, that's part to do with, Red Bull Racing, I mean, you were sponsored by Red Bull. You had plenty of money. It had more to do with the fact that you didn't get talented drivers. You just can't throw any Joe Schmo in there and expect, I mean, that's just like Richard Petty Racing. I talk about this all the time. You get what you get out of what you put in the car. You're not willing to spend money to get a talented driver. If you want Eric Almirola, you want Sam Hornish Jr., you want, so forth and so forth. That's what you're getting. That is the talent set that you're getting. Unless you're willing to fork some money in and get you a legitimate driver, No, who wants to sponsor the has-beens or the nobodies that you constantly put in the car? I mean, now you throw Brian Scott in the car. That's because he's got his own sponsor. That is what it is. Red Bull Racing did the same thing. They just never signed a productive driver. I think the only one they had, Casey Kane for part of a year or 1 year. And it seems you had one other driver that was, Brian Vickers. I mean, Brian Vickers has never, wowed anybody. I mean, he's won a race or two, but he's never wowed anybody. Casey Kane, he's been up and down throughout his career. And then it seemed like I don't think there was any other big name that Red Bull Racing ever signed. I can't even begin to tell you who Swan Racing's even had. But I don't like the fact that they threw the Michael Waltrip Racing scenario in there, because a lot of that's got to do with their whoopsie that they did, not any other reason. David Higdon, NASCAR Vice President of Integrated Marketing Communications, said in a statement to NBC Sports, NASCAR and NASCAR team owners all have a common goal to make our sport strong and competitive for decades to come. And these have been progress toward that goal. There still is work to be done, so it could not be appropriate to comment further at this time. My issue with this statement is make our sport strong and competitive. Yes, it may make it strong. Financially, it could do that. You know that without a shadow of a doubt, these 36 drivers every single week are going to be in there. Sponsors, yes, are probably going to be a little bit more willing to sponsor some of these drivers. So, yes, financially it makes it strong. Like I said, if NASCAR would start doing things more financially sense, instead of getting wrapped up into, well, Sunoco is now our official sponsor. Now we can only get Sunoco fuel. So now Sunoco is going to charge whatever the hell they want to charge because you have a monopoly. Same with Goodyear. I remember growing up and there being Hoosiers and Goodyears and it being competitive. And therefore there's a restriction on the price because now you have two teams or two different companies competing for the NASCAR business. Without that, NASCAR being the only official tire in NASCAR, now Goodyear controls and dictates how much NASCAR pays for it, and we could do this and do this and do this. With NASCAR constantly, banning, Sprint being the official cell phone company of the sport, that eliminated you no longer have AT&T, you can no longer have, was it Alltel at the time with Ryan Newman, you can no longer have a lot of these companies that were willing to throw their sponsorship, and that's where NASCAR is continuously doing things backwards. I'm sorry, but why eliminate potential sponsorships to lock in one sponsor? That absolutely, positively makes no sense. That'd be like NASCAR saying, you know what, we're going to make Pizza Hut the official sponsor. So anybody that wants Papa John's in the car, anybody that wants, who else is a big chain out there that I have? All I deal is with local mom and pop shops. I don't even know what CC. I don't know CC Pizza. I don't even really call that pizza. But Domino's another one. I don't really call that pizza either. But you know what I'm saying. That's like saying make it Coke the official drink of the sport, and so all those drivers that are sponsored by Pepsi would lose those sponsorships. That right there is a big part of why they screw them. What keeps screwing them up? You can't. You're in a sponsor-driven sport. The last thing you need to do is eliminate the last thing you want to do is eliminate other potential sponsors. I mean, that to me, at this point, then why does NASCAR just say, well, we're going to make Chevrolet as the official sports, the official car of NASCAR and eliminate? I mean, that's essentially what you did. And you wonder why the sport is downsizing. I just saw today Richmond is taking out the backstretch seats and, got that going on. The sport is constantly downsizing in different aspects and complaining that there's no sponsors. And how hard it is to find sponsors and everything else. Well, NASCAR does everything in a way that it causes the pricing of everything to go up because you let these things be monopolized, and instead of one having an open competition. You know, let's allow a couple of different fuel companies to provide the fuel for these cars. That way, now you got to have competitive pricing. Let's let Hoosier back in the sport so we can have competitive tire pricing. Let's allow, let's do away with the sponsorship. Look, Sprint, you could be the front runner, and obviously they're walking away from the sport anyway, but you could be the front runner of the sport, but if cars want, we're not going to allow there to be the Verizon 500, or we're not going to allow, certain things, but, if Ron Newman wants to have the Alltel car, or and I'm just using because that's who used to sponsor him, or if Jeff Burton wants to have the Singular or the AT&T car, then so be it. You're still the front. It's still the Sprint Cup Series, but, we're not going to eliminate other possibilities of sponsorship in the sport. That's kind of what, needs to be done. On top of that, they need to find cheaper, efficient ways to do things. I understand that they regulate, the tire count, and there's certain things that they have done, but they still they still have a few things that they need to do to make sure that everything is done in a price efficient way, and those are the things I think that the sport needs to focus on. Versus worrying about locking up 36 spots. I don't know. I just, it's like sometimes they don't think it all the way through. And I don't know. That's just my thought. Not like tonight. I wish we had Steve Biltmire in the studio, or even Sam Edwards in the studio, or hell, even Chris Creighton. Even though he's more focused on the local track, and the Friday and Saturday night racing. At least they have their opinion about the sport, especially since they've been around sport, and they have the insight, especially Steve Biltmire. He crew chiefed Tim Richmond and Jeff O'Dine and Jimmy Johnson going through the ranks, and just a lot of different drivers. So, I don't know. I have a serious issue with it. I just really do. I had an issue with the top 36 in points being, or top 35, I think it was, locked in points. I think it was 35 at the time when they used to do it that way. I had an issue with it, and I still have issues with there being certain spots guaranteed. It's supposed to be the most competitive, the fastest, the best of the best, not just we're going to guarantee you a spot, and that's how it's going to be. And no, what's the point of why does it not just randomly draw names out of a hat and you proclaim them the winner? That essentially that's kind of the same effect that I'm getting. So I don't want some measly guaranteed spots, and I got to know that Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who was statistically 2015 wrecked more than anybody. I don't want to know that he's going to be guaranteed into a race if he shouldn't be out there in a race. Wow, breaking news. And I don't get this, but breaking news. Tampa Bay Buccaneers have fired head coach Lovie Smith after just 2 seasons. Yes, just happening. I never understood why the Chicago Bears. What did they finish like 10-6 the season? They let them go. I don't think they made the playoffs, but I think they still finished 10-6. A great coach. I'm not. Great coach. I don't understand why. What the issue is of him and not be able to. I mean, he took over a team that was garbage, and they were the worst team last year, and they went from being the worst team to I'm not gonna say a great team, but they finished decent this year compared to last year. Black Monday came and went, and nobody even thought about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers parting ways with Coach Lovie Smith. Smith's first season with the Buccaneers was awful, as a talented roster somehow sunk so low it went 2-14 and got the number 1 pick. I don't know why, still to this day, why they picked Jameis Winston, but they did. Buccaneers improved to 6-10. Like I said, not a great season, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, 2 games right out of the gate, you play the Carolina Panthers. I mean, you play in the South. You already play a very competitive, division as it is. After careful consideration, we informed Lovie that we have decided to make a change. Buccaneers co-chairman Joel Glazer said in a statement, "I want to thank Lovie for his hard work and dedication to the Buccaneers during his time here. This decision was a difficult one on a variety of levels. I am disappointed that we are not more successful these past 2 seasons, but we are committed to doing what is necessary to give our fans the winning team they deserve. As we move forward, General Manager Jason Licht will oversee the process for finding our next head coach. Mark Dominic, the former Buccaneers general manager, said he expected Buccaneers offensive coordinator Dirk Koetter to be named head coach within a week. That would make sense since Koetter did a good job developing Winston as a rookie, and other teams with head coaching vacancies were starting to show interest. The Buccaneers are an intriguing team. I just don't. I don't get it. For a coach that had the success that he had at Chicago, I don't. And I don't know what. Honestly, I don't know what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were honestly expecting out of Lovie Smith in such a short period of time. Like I said, this is not a team when he walked into. I mean, they didn't have a legitimate quarterback. I mean, technically they still don't have a legitimate quarterback, but there was a lot of work to need to be done. I mean, like I said, Chicago's last season, it was 10-6. Granted, he finished third in the NFC, but that was a 10-6 record. I mean, with Chicago, he had seasons 11-5, 13-3, 11-5, 8-8, 10-6. In just 2 seasons, obviously with Tampa Bay, 2-14, 6-10. Obviously it's not what Tampa Bay was hoping for, but what did you leave them? I mean, you didn't have a legitimate quarterback last season. Like I said, you technically still don't have one now, but you drafted one. You didn't hold on to, some of the pieces that you had acquired. I mean, you didn't hold on to Darrelle Revis. There's pieces that have come and gone, and you've not made, all the efforts that was, needed to, all the pieces that were needed to make this team to be successful. I'm probably just as shocked as Lovie Smith is right now, as he was fired. I am truly, honestly, surprised that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have decided to cut, How many teams? And I say this all the time, but there's always coaches out there that are willing to go coach. Players always out there willing to go coach anybody. But I mean, how many good coaches that are available right now are wanting to go deal with that? Deal with a quarterback that, I mean, has not proven really anything. Has kind of been given everything, the free reins to run a franchise that, you know, is already in shambles. I mean, there's a reason why they had the number 1 draft pick. And, you know, yes, they improved great leaps and bounds, you know, going from a 2-win season to a 6-win season. But, I mean, who you honestly, I mean, your offensive coordinator really, is he really coaching material at this point? I don't know. I just came across the wire line there that I've seen, and I'm just, you know, I got to admit, it's kind of shocking to me. I got to admit. Got some NBA games completed, and we got some NBA games going on right now. I want to get you guys updated. That is, we work on getting things wrapped up here at the 110 Nation Sports Show for the night. It's hard to believe that here we are in the last few minutes of the show, so I want to make sure that I get you guys updated with everything going on before we get out of here. Earlier tonight, we had the Denver. What a low-scoring game tonight. A low-scoring game between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves, 78-74. As Denver went into Minnesota and was able to be victorious. A low-scoring game. It's always fun to watch a defensive game. You get to watch high-scoring games, and those are always fun and exciting to watch. But also, to get an opportunity to watch a low-scoring game, a duke it out, grind it out kind of game. I always love watching those as well. Then you got Dallas went into New Orleans, really no surprise. Dallas coming off that remarkable win. I don't know if anybody saw that yet. Saw that video. I reposted on our fan page. But where Darren Williams hit that three-pointer at the buzzer to win the game. Now, Rajon Rondo was not playing in the game. It's head coach's decision. But for whatever reason, he was not into the game. But if you have an opportunity, go check out our fan page. They got a video where Rajon Rondo, standing on the sidelines there, courtside, actually tried to trip Darren Williams. I thought that was, one, odd that nobody else caught that other than the Bleacher Report, I believe. I believe that he I believe Bleacher Report's the one that put it on there, but I can't believe no ref saw it, or it was never made more of a big deal. But you can literally see him trying to trip Darren Williams right there as he tried to shoot that three-pointer. But really no surprise. I talked about this last night. The fact that the Dallas Mavericks, doing decent, but the fact that New Orleans, I don't get why they're unable to be productive, other than the fact that they really just got one superstar, and it's a shame because Anthony Davis is beyond a superstar at this point, and he's trying his hardest to carry this team on his back. But Dallas goes into New Orleans, wins 100-91. San Antonio, 31-6. They just keep trucking along. I told you it was going to be a very lopsided game too last night when I talked about this. 123-98 over Utah. It's really a shame that they don't get the attention that they deserve. Playing, in the same conference as, or playing in the Western Conference with Golden State really hurts that, and the fact that Golden State is it's really a shame. Well, I don't know if it's really a shame or not, because Golden State San Antonio gets to fly underneath the radar because of that. It doesn't get the pressure or the attention or anything else. Indiana travels to Orlando. Really no big surprise on this. 95-86 over the Magic. Indiana still trying to keep pace with the Cleveland Cavaliers and obviously Miami. Miami loses to the New York Knicks. Kind of surprised on that. We was talking about how the Miami Heat, one of the stingiest teams out there, allowing less points than anybody in the NBA. Still kind of stayed par. If I recall correctly, Miami was only allowing like 94 points a game. New York only scored 98 to 90. So kind of on par with what they've been allowing. Just couldn't put up the points to beat the New York Knicks. Cleveland wins their fifth straight. Travel to Washington. Put up some really good numbers for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know that LeBron scored something like 38, Kyrie scored something like 32, and J.R. Smith scored 25. Very productive for those three, and just an all-around performance as Cleveland is finally getting things clicking now that they got everybody back and has had an opportunity to see how this team is going to click as a unit. Toronto traveled to Brooklyn, 91-74. Beat up on the Nets. Nets kind of went all in one season, getting the big three and adding the pieces they did. Now it just seems like everything just continuously falls apart without there. Surprise, Detroit beat Boston. Boston has been a really good team this year, and not to take anything away from the Detroit Pistons, but it's Boston. They continuously seem to be surprising me, and I thought that they would continue to move in the right direction. I don't know anybody can win at any given night, but I don't know. I just visualize a little bit more out of the Boston Celtics than a 99-94 loss to the Detroit Pistons. Games we got going on right now, the Clippers are up on Portland 45-31. Not a shocker at this point, up by 14 points, about halfway through the second. Charlotte and Phoenix, and I'm kind of surprised on this one, but Phoenix is up 96-87, but there's about 10 minutes left in the fourth, plenty of time for Charlotte to come back. And we talked about this last night. Memphis is a weird team. Sometimes they win games against competitive teams, and then the next week they get their butts handed to them. And I think I watched Cleveland win by 30 points one night. Oklahoma City up by 20 at the half, 56-36. Yes, 36 points at the half is all Memphis has been able to muster up. Like I said, that Memphis team, they all over the place right now. Like I said, one game they show up and they play competitively well. The next game, they don't show up, and I don't quite understand it. And the talent's there, the team is there, and they played. Most of that core has been there together. So I mean, it's no big surprises. There's no having to get the chemistry down. You're there. You're the team. But those are the games we got going on in the NBA. Over on the ice. Ice, baby, do. Montreal wins again, giving them another victory, trying to keep pace with the Florida Panthers. 2-1 over New Jersey. Chicago able to hold on tonight and win 3-1 over Pittsburgh as they won in overtime last night. 3 games in action right now. All of them just ended the first. You got St. Louis over Colorado in Colorado 2-1. Carolina in Vancouver, they are tied up at 0, and you got Toronto in Anaheim. Toronto up 1-0. That's all the action you got going on. Do we got time? I think we got enough time. NCAA. Let's run through these real quick. Maryland over Rutgers, 88-63. Pittsburgh over Georgia Tech, 89-84. Villanova over SHU, 72-63. Duke over Wake Forest, 91-75. Dayton over Massachusetts, UMass, 93-63. TAMU, I'm sorry, I don't know the abbreviation. what state that is? Texas A&M over Mississippi State, 61. I guess I should have known that. 60. And no, I didn't look that up. I just put it 2 and 2 together, honestly. And then the game's underway right now. You got Iowa State up over Texas Tech, 76-67, and then Xavier is at St. John. They're up 43. I'm sorry, the Iowa State game has got about 13 seconds left, so that's pretty much a wrap. Iowa State's going to win. There's about 7.5 minutes left in the second half for the Xavier game, as they have a pretty nice lead there with a 53-44 lead. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., One Ten Nation Morning Show. Make sure you guys tune in. Got a lot of things that we're going to discuss to kick off the day, get your day started off on the right foot. Tomorrow night, we was hoping to have the Racing with Big Sweat back at 9 o'clock. Delay on that. We'll have him back Thursday night, 9 p.m. next week. Make sure you guys tune in. We have a world record holder for the youngest driver. He's like 2 years, 7 months old. Make sure you guys tune in. It's going to be a great show, plus the return of Sam Edwards. We also have, we will have One Ten Nation Sports Show tomorrow night, as we do every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Make sure you guys check that out. I think that's about everything I got to put out there tonight. Make sure you guys stay warm out there. You guys have a great night, and we'll be talking to you in the morning.
Thanks for listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show with Mr. CJ Sports. You are a part of the 110 Nation, so be sure to visit the110nation.com for everything related to the show. You can follow CJ on Twitter at 110nation and on Facebook at 110 Nation Sports. Until next time.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Way early this morning, Brad Higdon shared a major spoiler alert from everyone's favorite hit show, sad emojis to express his feelings about the plot twist, and a playlist he made to drown out his sorrows? Dude, oversharing alert. Brad, Geico has something worth sharing with those who haven't befriended you. Like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance at Geico.com. So stop moping about the post-apocalyptic world and start saving in the real world. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.